Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends. My name is Bill Carger, and with me is Steve Schneider, and we are the co-presidents of Brotherhood at Temple Beth Am. We want to welcome all of you to this, our third Brotherhood lecture Zoom call. As you all know, it's been a difficult and challenging time with the pandemic, but thankfully, with a vaccine, this will be all behind us in the very near future. Brotherhood continues to think of ways to offer programs to you, but certainly we welcome all suggestions from all of our membership for future lectures. Please visit the Temple's website at www.tempbetham.org for more information from Brotherhood. For today's morning lecture, Brotherhood welcomes and is honored to have our speaker, Dr. Charles Steinberg, president of the Worcester Red Sox, or Woo Sox. He will be speaking about the new Polar Park in Worcester, his 3 World Series rings, as well as some of his many tales of the baseball past. I will turn it over to Stu Slavitt, our Vice President of Programming, in a little bit to formally introduce Dr. Steinberg. At this time, I do welcome our clergy, Rav Blumberg, to say Motzi.
Thanks, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here this morning and to be with you all and to hear from Dr. Steinberg. My wife is from Worcester, and my Machatanam is there, and it's really, really exciting to see the progress that's been going on in Worcester. So looking forward to hearing from you this morning.
Thank you.
We'll begin with a blessing over bread this morning. A blessing is an opportunity for us to take a moment and to give gratitude to the things in our life that we might otherwise take for granted. And so we say the blessing together. If you have something bready nearby, you can say the blessing as well. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who brings forth bread from the earth. Amen.
So when I was in touch with Dr. Charles' office and said, could you please send me a short bio to use as part of the introduction, they sent me 4.5 pages of bio. So a long history with Dr. Steinberg and quite illustrious. And I just picked a few highlights. And Dr. Steinberg, as Billy mentioned, is the inaugural president of the Worcester Red Sox, scheduled to open their first season this year at the new Polar Park. He spent many of the last 20 years as executive vice president of the Boston Red Sox. In a vast career in which he's also worked with the Baltimore Orioles, San Diego Padres, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Commissioner Bud Selig. He's helped create Polar Park and the Woo Sox after re-energizing the Paw Sox as an entertainment vehicle and a goodwill force in the community. He spent 11 seasons with the Red Sox, 2002 through 2007 and 2012 through 2016, with his primary area of responsibility leading public relations, community relations, ballpark entertainment, advertising, and various aspects of marketing. In the intervening 4 years, he was chief marketing officer of the LA Dodgers and then senior advisor for public affairs to the Commissioner of Baseball. Dr. Charles has been instrumental in the creation and writing of ceremonies at Fenway Park, ranging from opening days to World Series parades. He's also instrumental in beginning a tradition of Going Gold to raise awareness each September for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Perhaps the most important ceremony of his career was April 20th, 2013, in which Boston's largest community convocation gathered at Fenway Park following the Boston Marathon tragedy of April 15th. He's earned 7 championship rings, 5 world championships, including 1 with Baltimore in 1983 and 4 with the Red Sox, plus 2 league championships with the Orioles and the Padres. He's also helped produce postseason play events and entertainment in Major League Baseball in 14 seasons. He's also, in his spare time, a musician and songwriter. These compositions have been recorded by Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr., former Chicago lead singer Billy Chaplin, Bob Cowsill of the Cowsills, the Parkington Sisters, and others. He wrote the words and music for theme songs for Wally the Green Monster, as well as for the Paw Sox Baseball and Woo Sox 21. Maybe he'll sing us a verse of it when he's talking, or not. He served on the board of the San Diego Symphony and performed Take Me Out to the Ball Game on the Fenway organ during Jimmy Buffett's concert in 2004. He was part of a group that sang on the Dropkick Murphys hit song Tessie and had a cameo with Drew Barrymore in the Farrelly Brothers hit film Fever Pitch. Currently president of the Boston Red Sox, I give you Dr. Charles Steinberg.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That you're right. It's getting pretty long. It used to be that I could just summarize my career and before I would speak, and that would take just a couple minutes. Now, to put it in detail, it would use up my entire time to present. So I am grateful for that introduction and for your invitation. 2 straight years. I was supposed to speak to you last year, and we know what COVID did at its onset. Now let's hope that we're in its final days. But I'm very happy to get to talk to you. And it's a very different presentation today than it would have been 1 year ago. 1 year ago and 6 days on March 16th, the flattened land that is now the site of Polar Park had its first steel go up. So it was a complete pancake 1 year and 6 days ago. And today it's a rather sparkling, gleaming blue and white jewel in its final days. So it's been remarkable to me that even in this year, unlike any other, we've been able to go from horizontal to vertical, and we hope ready to turn over to the Woo Sox in just about 10 days from now. So I brought pictures along as we show pictures of children and grandchildren. Here's our baby. So let's see if I can share my screen. I'll describe the park to you, but I want to leave enough time for your questions. Your questions can be on anything. It can be from, being a Jewish boy growing up in Baltimore and getting to work for the Orioles, to moving to San Diego, to with Larry Lucchino, to oversee the Padres, to the Boston Red Sox, to the Dodgers, to the commissioner, back to the Red Sox, to Pawtucket, to Worcester. There's a lot we could talk about. So whatever is of interest to you. One thing I will say, speaking to a men's club at a synagogue is particularly meaningful to me because when I was about 8 years old, in that summer of 1967, the Orioles had just won the World Series in '66. And that's when I fell in love with baseball. I was able to go with my father to the Bethel in Baltimore men's club breakfast. And why did I get to go? Because the Orioles play-by-play announcer, Chuck Thompson, was speaking. And maybe somewhere in all of the knickknacks and paraphernalia that I've accumulated over the years, I still have this little wallet that said Bethel Men's Club from that day. And it's not lost on me how indelible the imprint is of these experiences for children of any age, 8 to 80 and beyond. So that's a memory that I cherish. And I loved Bethel with all my heart. And that's where I was bar mitzvahed, and went on to Baltimore Hebrew High School and Baltimore Hebrew College from there. I'm always grateful that even baseball got to weave its way in to my synagogue. So that's why it's particularly meaningful to me. And Rabbi, I'm grateful for your presence and for your Motzi, and look forward to talking to you in person. This is just 2 days ago, this picture. That's Polar Park in Worcester, right by Kelly Square. Kelly Square, however, won't be your only means of access to it. Say you're coming west on the Pike and you get off at 146 and you want to take 290, you can bypass exit 13 for Kelly Square. You can go to exit 14 now. It's a reconstructed exit, and that will be an alternate way right into the Canal District. But let's take a look at our pictures. you get the urban context when you take a look at this scene. Polar Park, right in the center of your screen, is part of the Canal District, one block, a short block away from all of the restaurants and the activities that have been part of a resurgent Worcester well before our decision to move there. And in fact, on the left side, you can walk right to the theater district, go to the Hanover Theater, go to Mechanics Hall, and we envision a full cultural weekend. You can take the train, and from Framingham, that might be one of the best ways to go. Take the commuter rail, get right off at Union Station. It's a very comfortable walk. I've done it. If the mood hits you to take a walk and see City Hall or the Worcester Common, you're right there too. At the bottom, you see future developments. We were fortunate that we were able to build Polar Park this year, despite the pandemic, enduring 1 7-week delay. 7 weeks is a theme in Judaism, and we paused for 7 weeks. Instead of 7 weeks plus 1 day, like the Omer, we were 7 weeks minus 1 day, 48 days. But despite that, we were able to keep going. However, other developments that were to be concurrent were delayed. Not our developments, but so you see at the bottom, future developments. The ballpark's on Madison Street. We have the small parcel north of Madison where it's wedged into a little postage stamp, because that's how it's closest to the Canal District. But the area south of Madison still has future development ahead of it. Here's what that future development would look like. You see Polar Park, and then you see all of these, you see a garage south of Madison, a biotech building, hotels, apartments. So all of that is in progress, but all of that was delayed. So right now, south of Madison is somewhat the flat pancake that Polar Park was 1 year ago. Here's a little more diagnostic view of the progress. It's a blue ballpark. Some fans call it woo blue. And you'll see that big video board in left field. And this is a construction photo, not a diagram of what it would look like. So that's a relatively recent snapshot. Here is the scene as we imagine it. This is an artistic concoction. And one of the things it shows you are the two light towers in left center field and right center field. We didn't know much at all about Worcester when we began the contemplation. And one of the most delicious aspects of designing and building a ballpark and bringing a franchise to a city is just the total immersion, the diving in to a swimming pool on a hot day and just getting to know who Worcester is, what its values are, what its history is, who its people are. And it didn't take long before the expression, the heart of the Commonwealth, was branded on our foreheads. And in a tribute to Worcester being the heart of the Commonwealth, you see heart-shaped light towers in left center and right center. So each game, to paraphrase Neil Diamond, will turn on our heart lights. Here's a photo, a recent photo of how it's coming along. The video board in left field, the big dark rectangle in center is intentionally a navy blue background for the batter's eye so that the ball shows up well. But you see from this view how you showcase your city. The Telegram and Gazette building down the left field line. You can see through the batter's eye the spires of Union Station. You'll look at it and you'll say, yep, I'm in Worcester. From a baseball standpoint, the ball field, because it was wedged into the land we were given, we had to adjust to the topography. So 330 down the left field line is common. 391 to left center is deep. And the reason for that is right field is short. What does right field have to do with left center? Well, right field is only 320 because we're up against a 30-foot drop, a 30-foot topographical drop. And so that was as far as we could go. Well, you compensate for a 320-foot distance down the line by building a 22-foot high wall. What's that have to do with 391? Well, the Boston Red Sox explained that they not only are interested in the distance that a ball would travel by the hitter, but the acreage that outfielders have to travel. Been in baseball 45 years, I never knew that. So left center is deep to provide sufficient acreage for the outfielders to have to traverse an area in proper player development. 403 to center, not unusual. 370 to right center, that's pretty reachable. I think that you'll see some balls go there. But will it be a hitter's park or will it be a pitcher's park? We asked that question to the greatest hitter who ever lived, Ted Williams, when we were starting to design Petco Park in San Diego. He was in his later days, and he was a San Diego native, and he had come home, and we described the dimensions there. We said, will it be a hitter's park or a pitcher's park? And in his bellowing John Wayne style, he said, what are the prevailing winds? Don't know. Well, that's going to be your answer. So yesterday at a meeting, a budget meeting at Larry Lucchino's house, we were talking about what are the prevailing winds. And there certainly seems to be a wind tunnel that we notice, but we will still do a wind study. But it's really the baseball players who will determine whether the ballpark is a hitter's park, a pitcher's park, or whether it plays right down the middle. In a ballpark designed by Larry Lucchino and Janet Marie Smith, you've got the Rodgers and Hammerstein of baseball architecture and ambiance. They created Oriole Park at Camden Yards. I was there with them, observing their heretical ideas like an old-fashioned downtown ballpark with modern amenities. I thought we'd move to the suburbs. I thought we'd move off Baltimore's version of 495, which is 695, a beltway. And no, they wanted something small and intimate and irregular and idiosyncratic with eccentricities. And these are DNA principles of Larry Lucchino, and the artistry of Janet Marie translates Larry's vision. And that's why you see here many seats down low and close to the field. If you're sitting in those first few rows, you're closer to the batter than the pitcher is. Pitcher's 60 feet, 6 inches away, you may be about 40 feet away. If you notice too, look at first base. Look at those seats at first base. Do you see the Woo Sox dugout at first base? Notice that there are some seats then just to the left. See if you can see it with my cursor. In section 16, between the Woo Sox dugout and the Woo Sox bullpen, you are going to hear the bass drum of a marching band if you sit there, because the pitchers are going to be firing their fastballs as they warm up, and you are going to hear the pop of that ball in that mitt the way an umpire hears it right behind the catcher. So that's a baseball innovation, to have the bullpen right by the dugout. Notice also, if you can see this white portal that's different from the others. Why is this portal different from all other portals? Because it's the time of the season for that question. Because the accessibility for those in wheelchairs brings you to every seating category, including the dugout seats in the first couple rows. So through that portal, someone in a wheelchair can come right from Madison Street right to the first row. That's another innovation. So there is accessibility in all categories. And this I should probably get another slide that shows this better, but let me show you something on this one. If you look at the third base seats and you go up to the last row of the third base seats, you see kind of some more seats speckled in behind the back row. Well, those seats pivot so that if someone's in a wheelchair and you are able-bodied, you bring your companion, you can pivot that seat, slide the wheelchair in, and sit with your companion. There was a time early in my career when at Baltimore's Memorial Stadium, there were 2 flat pens into which all wheelchairs went in bumper-to-bumper congregation, but you couldn't sit with your companion. And when we were in the 1979 World Series, before Game 1, there was a protest from the disabled community, made the news, saying it shouldn't be that we have such inadequate facilities for the disabled. Well, when Larry Lucchino and Janet Marie Smith began the design of Camden Yards to replace Memorial Stadium, they took that to heart and, working with American Seating Company, invented this concept of a pivotal seat that lets one sit with one's wheelchair companion. Now, Larry likes to describe the conventionality of infield seats. These are traditional, good seats down low and close to the field. But in today's age, a lot of families don't sit in seats all 9 innings with a number 2 pencil scoring the game, as I faithfully did. I even went to Penn. But here you see that the outfield is full of unusual places, open spaces, picnic areas, areas that you can walk around, areas where the kids can stretch their legs, so that there is no requirement that you sit still in your seat, as you probably had to do at Fenway till we made those 10 years of improvements. And then for those who want some special amenities, we have those. Imagine if you want to rent, and it'll be expensive, I warn you, the big blue bug batter's box right down first row next to the Woo Sox dugout. That will be an experience. It's immediately to the right that the wheelchairs are. Here's a good shot of the Worcester Wall, 22 feet high, with seats atop, a nod to the Green Monster, but not a gimmick. It was necessary because of the 30-foot drop. But think about what advantage that 30-foot drop gives you. What that means is behind those Worcester Wall seats is a street, Summit Street. It's at that grade. It's at that elevation, which means you don't climb up to the Worcester Wall. You walk down from Summit Street to your seats. It's really another Worcester triple decker. There's that level. There's the mid-level, the main concourse level, and then there's a Madison Street level. At some point this summer, our berms will be ready. Grassy areas, again, where you can just stretch out, put out a blanket, let the kids run around, and be ready to catch home runs. Here's our cool new video board. This is a photo. So here is, the photo was March 12th. We haven't turned it on yet. We may do that tomorrow and see what happens. So it's a big one, 40 feet by 70 feet. Here's another photo. This was, I think, right after the snow melted the other day. The snow blanketed the field for much of February, which they say is okay for the grass. But now here it was unveiled as you look from really from the foul pole, just foul of the foul pole in left field. In the foreground on the right is the visitors' bullpen. So you're going to hear some balls popping in mitts if you sit in section 1. which is the most affordable seat we have as well. Here's what we imagine the scene to look like when we turn on the video board and when people are on the berm and you see the ads all along what we call the Plymouth Promenade. Plymouth Street is one of 3 little 1-block fingertips that connect the Canal District to the park. The main street of the Canal District where we are is Green Street. Well, Plymouth, Gold, and Ash connect you. PGA. Plymouth, Gold, and Ash connect you. Plymouth becomes the left field border. Gold comes right up to the park and you can look in for free. And Ash comes right to the first base corridor. Here's the Gold Street overlook. So this is a scene that anyone can have any time with no ticket, no purchase. You can just have total public access as you come up Gold Street and take a peekaboo inside Polar Park. Summit Street, the one that's 30 feet high, will be activated and animated the way Jersey Street, formerly Yawkey Way, was animated. We animated that at the Red Sox. We created that as a in-game thoroughfare September 5th of 2002, and it really decongested Fenway. It allowed people to breathe and get out there a little bit more. So that's what we'll be doing with Summit Street as well. And there'll be some cool features on Summit Street. We have found the old Sherwood Diner, if you remember that, and we are restoring it now. We're not going to use it as a diner. You have to go through more hoops than we could imagine for that. But I think we'll make it the headquarters of our Woo Sox Foundation, and it will be an area where every accredited nonprofit who has any relationship with us can have their information. So it will be a community communication center. One of the coolest aspects is a taste of Worcester. This is our opportunity to make sure that the restaurateurs who are such a vital, vibrant force of Worcester have their tasty opportunities to be sold. So yes, you'll have Coney Island hot dogs and table talk pies. Those are fundamentals of understanding Worcester. Yes, everything is related to polar beverages, but there's also the smaller restaurants or middle restaurants, and you want to make sure you're welcoming them. So Nuovo on Shrewsbury Street will have their arancini balls, I believe they are. An Asian restaurant, Chasho, will have a particular dish that's easy and fun to eat. It's like a chicken, another kind of chicken ball. There is really no limit to who can be a partner with us. You may have a taste of Worcester one day or one homestand. Someone else may have it another homestand, but having community engagement is a fundamental, even in a culinary standpoint. It's also a ballpark that is a storyteller. We insist on it being a storyteller. It's one of the greatest assets we can have. And if you can see this, all right, one of the stories Worcester has is a wonderful, rich baseball heritage. Not everybody, certainly not everybody outside of Worcester, knows that the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Cincinnati Reds, as longtime National League teams, had the Worcester Worcesters in the National League in 1880, 1881, 1882. Here was their logo. We have retrieved the 1880s Worcester Worcesters logo, and in cast iron, it adorns the end of every row. So you know you're in Worcester. And even in 1880, because the Heart of the Commonwealth was branded in 1848, when it went from a town to a city. Even in 1880, they celebrated that Worcester was the heart of the Commonwealth, and that's right there on every end of every row in the seating bowl. Worcester, of course, is also the home of the smiley face. It's where Harvey Ball drew that as an ad agency head in December of 1963. It debuted in January of 64, and together with Beatlemania, helped lift the spirits of a country still in mourning. So a smiley face will adorn the foul poles. We haven't put those up yet, and our mascot is Smiley Ball. The roofs are interesting. Larry has a thing for roofs. They provide shelter. They provide some sun shelter, rain shelter. We were walking the park the other day, and it was raining. And I said, all right, let's see how your roofs are doing. And it's true. The rows 18, 19, and 20, the back rows, that's where you want to sit on a rainy day. It looked absolutely fine so far. The exterior of the ballpark will celebrate Polar Park when you look at it from Madison Street. And if you're familiar with the Kelly Square area, this new big splash of green is a noticeable adornment to the area. It's an urban streetscape area. And Larry has passionately believed, because he believes in cities breathe better with a touch of green. So here's a nice hill that you can do what these folks are doing right outside the park in what we'll call DCU Plaza. Now the hardscape part of DCU Plaza will have giant size versions of our 4 rings. Not that we haven't won 9 world championships, but I don't think we had rings back then. But we use my rings, we use my 4 for the artists, but then we adorned them with not Steinberg, and Steinberg, because your name is on your ring, but instead the 2004 ring will be Jason Varitek. He was the captain. The 2007 ring will be Dustin Pedroias. He was the spark plug and rookie of the year. David Ortiz will be on the 2013 one, and Alex Cora, whose managerial unifying abilities really was a key story in 2018, will be on that ring. So we think that'll be something for kids to look at, for aspiring ball players to look at, and they are Instagram moments all the way. This is a photo of not just the facade. You see, it'll say Polar Park on the right. The left panel will say Worcester Red Sox, and we'll have a city seal in between Worcester and Red Sox. It's a very pretty seal in Worcester. Also, those who really study urban planning, who really are urban romanticists, will enjoy the detail that went into the street lights here. These are brand new street lights because it's a brand new street that will end perpendicularly at Madison. It'll be called Green Island Boulevard. And these new street lamps are designed to just feel like a comfortable, walkable, livable downtown. This is what that facade will look like when it says Worcester Red Sox. And in true circular fashion, we end at the beginning. So here is the view once again from center field, and perhaps you have some degree of context. Now this is a photo, so this is not an artistic rendering, but you do see across Madison that big dirt area where future development is beginning, and someday, hopefully before too long, it will have those buildings that I showed you. Oh, I see that we've got some questions. One I should address off the bat, because it's the one we have not yet shown to people, and that is, where's the parking? And we kind of joke, say, oh yeah, we didn't build that. Well, it's true, we didn't. The city said, look, here's how it will work. If you're going to wedge into a little space at the foot of this hill, what we'll do is we'll provide the surrounding parking. So the city has 21 lots and garages that surround Polar Park in concentric circles, anything from a right nearby to a 5-minute walk to a 10-minute walk. So 21 lots and garages will surround us. Some of those are city-owned lots, and those prices then are established from as economical, cheap as $5, or if you want the mid-range, 10, and if you really want a parking space that is close as can be in a city lot, that's 15. But there are also some great closer private lots, and you don't establish those prices. That's up to the local folks. That's not an adequate answer by my standards. What we want, it's the truth, and there are a lot of spaces. When you're going to have full capacity, you work with the transportation model of 3.2 people per car. That means that you're going to need about 2,900, let's call it 3,000 cars. You have in those 21 lots 6,000 spaces. The spaces are there, yeah, but some of them are going to be used by other businesses and other events. Absolutely. And with that calculation, you've still got more than 3,000 for the 2,900 that we have. We also want mass transit to be used by those who will use it. The train is a great way to go. It's an easy way to go. Look, we have 9 colleges in Worcester, 14 in the area, extending to Framingham State. Framingham might be a little long for Uber or Lyft, but not for the 9 colleges in Worcester. So Uber and Lyft will have specific areas of pickup and drop off. And the more people take Uber and Lyft, the easier it is for them. I'm seeing Marla and Andy's question about, have you talked to the T about building a station similar to Fenway? The city manager had that vision right away. He would love that. I don't know what the timetable is or what the process is for that, but he's certainly interested in that. But I'll tell you, Union Station is quite nice. It's fine. We're also going to have an 8-passenger silver golf cart that is driving around the Canal District, so that if you park, let's say you take the train from Union Station, and even though it's only a couple blocks, fine, hop on our little Silver Street and ride this golf cart free, of course, and we'll get you to the ballpark. The ballpark will have many different entrances. Madison Street's one, but you can enter right off Plymouth. That's a wonderful entrance, as well as Gold and Hatch. So wherever you park, or from whichever direction you arrive, you can enter. Televised games, yes. We're working with Nesson. In a full season, they were planning to do anywhere from 50 to all 70 home games, either on Nesson or Nesson Plus, depending on whether the Red Sox are playing. So it might be 40 at a minimum this year, but they're still overlaying the schedule. When are the Woo Sox playing? When are the Red Sox playing? When are the Bruins playing? And so we're working on that. But yes, that Nesson is going to do it. And games that Nesson doesn't televise, well, Channel 56 asked us if we'd be interested, and Spectrum in Worcester. Ticket prices start at $8. $8 is the price if you're a child, a student, an active member of the military, or a senior. Now, what does the $8 ticket get you? It's a general admission ticket. It gets you into the ballpark. If seats are available, take a seat. It's at least available for standing room and walking around, sitting at the picnic tables, enjoying the whole ambiance. It doesn't have a reserved seat with it, but if we have seats, go sit down. $9 if you don't fit into one of those 4 categories. And so the $8 ticket, Yaz ticket, for children, students, active military, and seniors, $9 Teddy ball games for everybody. Then $12 for a pool area, the bridge that connects the ballpark to the right field area. And then $15 starting with the third base reserve. If you want to go high end, we've got that for you. You don't want to build a ballpark that requires you to go high end, but you want to offer high end. So a home plate field box, $27, but with waiter and waitress service. And dugout seats are essentially sold out. Club level seats are sold out, but we kept some for single game purchase. But that's if you want to go big. Same thing with private suites. The private suites sold out like that, but we kept 4 for single game use.
So someone has asked about peanut allergies, and then in Fenway Park there's a peanut-free area. Will there be a similar area?
You know, you're reminding me to follow up on it, and I'll do so, because it was certainly part of the design, and I haven't talked about it lately, and I want to check on the status of it, whether there would be an area at every game that's peanut-free, which we prefer to certain peanut-free nights. But we understand, though, that you really have to be strict, and you can't even be subject to airborne particles. But, you know, I don't remember where we are with that. You can email me at steinberg@woosock.com, any of you can. And let's make sure I follow up, and I'll try to get that answer. We certainly are addressing what that triggers are some innovations we are doing. There are a remarkable number of families who have family members on the autism spectrum. And so we will have a low sensory, a place where those who need that can go during the game. So it doesn't have to be peanut free, but it did remind me of something rather sensitive and innovative that we're doing.
I have a question. What part of your heart was thrilled that the Dodgers won the championship last year?
The part that loves Mookie Betts. I really love Mookie. I was a big fan of Mookie. I didn't get to know him well at the Red Sox. It would be like, hey, how are you? How are you? Whereas a Xander Bogart would just come up and throw his arms around you. And a Jackie Bradley Jr., you would just fall into a conversation on any philosophical aspect of life. Mookie was always very pleasant, very nice. And I was heartbroken, like other fans, when we traded him. So I loved it for Mookie, and I loved Mookie showing what a player can do to make a good team great, to make a almost champion a champion. As for my other friends at the Dodgers, I still have some friends there, although there's been a lot of turnover. It hasn't been the model of consistency that the Dodgers we grew up with were. The Dodgers we grew up with, when they were owned by the O'Malley family, had a 2-word motto: no change. So they did it. They did it until they became dinosaurs, and they sold in 1998. But my goodness, I was part of a merry-go-round there, and I loved working with Dodgers. But it was a tumultuous environment, but I was thrilled for Mookie and for my friends that I still have at the time.
So Jerry Lipton asked about if there are any solar panels on your roof.
You know, that's something else I need to check. That doesn't come to mind. I know that Larry and Janet Marie have been aficionados of roofs and rooftops, but I don't remember hearing that we have solar panels.
John Clayman wants to know if there will be a Worcester version of Wally.
Well, Smiley Ball. Yes, Smiley Ball is a very good friend of Wally. And not only that, but there's a fellow from Worcester who really developed the Wally costume and character over our years there. His name is Chris Bergstrom. And we brought him, we stole him away from the Red Sox. And so he is advising Smiley. And we view Smiley Ball as the beginning of a mascot menagerie, to tell you the truth. We intentionally made Smiley Ball a little bit shorter so that he's not intimidating to the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds. They may fall in love with Smiley Ball before they know much about who Ted Williams was or who Carl Yastrzemski was. So, yes, but we expect Wally and his sister Tessie to visit us from time to time, just as those of you who were familiar with our time in Pawtucket can look forward to visits from Paws of Sock, who, of course, are welcome to the ball game, as anyone should be, especially when it's simply that the family moved from Pawtucket to Worcester, which is not an uncommon social dynamic in southeastern Massachusetts and northern Rhode Island.
So Adam Freudberg asked, or his children asked, they were thrilled to hear that you had met Ted Williams. They'd like to know what other historic Major League Baseball players you know or historic games you attended, and were you at Camden Yards?
Well, I was at Camden Yards when I called the meeting to begin the planning of the streak. And let's see if I can tell that story succinctly. Cal Ripken and I grew up together at the Orioles. He's 2 years younger than I am. And it is funny. So we both grew up, Cal and I, idolizing Brooks Robinson. I mean, he is still my favorite. He is still the nicest person I've ever met in all my years in baseball. Anywhere he would be signing his latest book, my mother was going to take me anywhere Brooks was. And I still have every book signed to Charles. Best wishes, Brooks Robinson. We asked him to sign books for my cousin and my best friend, saying, will you sign it? Congratulations on your bar mitzvah. Well, it came out, best wishes, Brooks Robinson, but we tried. Anyway, Brooks is the best. And to go from admiring a hero when you're 7 years old, 9 years old, 13, to then working with them when you're 17, when I got a high school intern with the Orioles. And you wonder, what are they going to be like behind the curtain? What are they going to be like when the camera's not on? And Brooks was even better, if that were possible. One day I was sent to the clubhouse to get a ball signed for my boss, the PR director. And I'm walking along the hallway and I realize someone's walking behind the narrow, dark path. You're sort of looking out the corner of your eye. Oh my gosh, it's Brooks. So he and I are both walking the same path to go to the clubhouse, where I will then turn around and say, by the way, can you sign this for Bob Brown? And as we're walking, it's just Brooks's nature. You need me to sign something for you. I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you. You know, he pays a mensch. You know, he just knew, and he did great. Brooks has been the best, and he gave me the biggest honor of my career. And trying to think of than perhaps any Judaic moments like a bar mitzvah, the biggest honor of my life, when Janet Marie Smith had gone back to Camden Yards after saving Fenway with Larry, and she worked with Peter Angelos to create statues of the 6 greatest Orioles: Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Earl Weaver, Al Ripken, and Eddie Murray. And Brooks's dedication was the last of the six. And Eddie Murray, I had grown up with too, and I had spoken at Eddie's statue dedication. And in September of 2012, my assistant, Jackie Dempsey, now Jackie Will, I walked in, she says, Brooks Robinson just called. Like, Brooks Robinson called me. Yeah. And I called him back and he said, when they dedicate my statue, would you speak on behalf of all the Oriole fans? He said, because I know you would do a great job. I'm like, what an honor. What an honor to represent millions, certainly generations of fans in Baltimore. And that was one of the greatest moments of my life. So Brooks Robinson was wonderful. Frank Robinson had a shell on the outside. And when you penetrated the shell, oh my God, he was the best. He was the best. I've got Frank Robinson. Earl Weaver, I worked for. I was the Orioles statistician using a medium point blue Bic pen. Earl was the father of baseball statistics in their use in games, well before Bill James, well before sabermetric. Earl invented the use on July 11th, 1968, of certain stats that would help him judge what hitter to place in a situation and in a lineup. And in my internship with the Orioles in my second year, my boss, PR director, said, you're familiar with Earl Weaver's stats? I said, I've heard of them. He goes, well, we do them, and you're going to do them. Like, So I had a lifetime of memories with Earl Weaver. Jim Palmer is still a source of humor. I've never been skinny, and he has always been this handsome model who has never minded taking his finger and poking it in my ample tummy and saying, Charles, I think you're losing weight. So he's always a teaser. Cal Ripken and I, as I say, grew up. And in one of those teenage awkward moments, it's spring break while I'm in college, and I get to go down to Miami where the Orioles train. And everybody has an uncle in Miami Beach. So my mother, I get to stay at their place and take the bus in to Miami Stadium in 1978. And the team was playing a road game, but the players who remained behind played what's called a B game. It's unofficial, doesn't count, but they're playing right there in an empty stadium. And my boss asked me to score the B game so we would know who did what. And I'm alone in the first row of seats. Can you imagine? Well, there's one other kid. He's one row behind me and about 4 seats over. Got long hair. And I know who he is. His father's our third base coach. But I'm the big shot. I'm the one sitting in the first row scoring the game. He's just the son of the third base coach. We sat there for, 2 hours. And in teenage awkwardness, I'm 19, he's 17, never said a word. Al Ripken and I wound up being as wonderful friend colleagues as you can imagine. And we still keep in touch. He just lost his mom, and I sent him a note. And, it's just funny how you go through baseball and it travels with you in the stages of your life. And it's a beautiful thing. When we built Camden Yards, my parents would come to the game. They'd go to the seats that I had selected off the blueprint. My dad would sit down. My mom knew everyone in Baltimore, so she would take a lap around the ballpark. He'd get back in the 8th inning, having said hello to everybody, and they thought they had a night out. So you watch how baseball travels with you in the life cycle.
Alan writes, more than any other major U.S. sport, there seems to be a strong connection between Jews and baseball. Do you have any idea why?
I guess I have to think about that, and you all may have ideas too. I don't think I know it any better than you. I just think that baseball has so many dimensions of storytelling. And baseball has been a source of Americanization for the immigrants. So 120 years ago, 110 years ago, the Irish would come over, and this was their ball player. And the Italians would come over, and later, DiMaggio was their ball player. And the Jewish people could look at Greenberg, and it was very accessible. It was you could see it, you could talk about it. Football wasn't big yet, basketball wasn't big yet. I can't really speak for hockey, but it certainly wasn't as big as it is today. But American heroes were baseball players. And it really fueled the consciousness of what coming to America meant. And today, so many in Rhode Island are Yankee fans because of Joe DiMaggio. I said, wait a minute, Dom DiMaggio was great. And don't forget Vince. Yeah, but Joe DiMaggio, he showed us what we could aspire to achieve. When Sandy Koufax wouldn't pitch on Yom Kippur, I think that sent. I remember talking to Kevin Youkilis about it. He said, yeah, but he was Sandy Koufax. He said, if you're the 25th guy on the team, it's a much harder decision. But Kevin Youkilis and Gabe Kapler both joined me at my synagogue in Boston, in Brookline, Kehillat Israel, with Rabbi Hamilton. And Kevin Youkilis and Gabe Kapler are sitting there at High Holiday services, and this line of 10-year-olds is forming in the aisle, and each one is trying to look nonchalant as though they had to be standing there for some other reason, just their mouths agape as they looked at these two Red Sox heroes sitting there with their yarmulkes and their talit on. So it's a great question. It really merits a more thoughtful response. Also, with gematria, if you read Chaim Potak's shows, I thought that showed baseball and from mathematical, numerical standpoint with Judaism in a very cool way. But I'm just glad that there is such accessibility and that there are more Jewish players now than I ever remember. It was much more of a novelty. And I'll leave you with this. Story goes, the umpire was Al Clark, who was Jewish. The hitter was Sean Green, who was Jewish. And I've got to think of who the catcher was, who was Jewish. And they were all there. And Al Clark came out from behind home plate. And as he dusted off the plate, said, gentlemen, this calls for a shehechian. So who knew? That's the story. Thank you all for having me today. I'd love to meet with you all in person when we can do that. I can handle more of your questions and maybe have more of the answers to your great questions. Thank you.
I think a lot of us will take you up on that and come and visit you there, especially maybe as a group. Brotherhood trip out there would be great.
That would be good, yeah. In a post-COVID era, our group outings are going to be really cool. Pre-COVID, we're going to move our season ticket holders out there when we have socially distanced. Probably in May. Maybe our group outing areas are really nice.
Well, on behalf of everyone that's with us this morning on Zoom, I want to thank Dr. Charles for his time, and please keep in touch with him. He'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, C. Steinberg at woosox.com.